Honesty is a great policy. I'm petrified. I am nervous, and I think anybody who speaks will say we're nervous, and I am nervous because I'm talking to a room of people who I hugely admire, social entrepreneurs who do things greater, better, more fabulous. And like, who am I? Just a person coming up to tell a story. But I've been asked to talk to you today about the power of persuasion. And by God, do I know how to persuade. Freddie Mercury has this great song when he was singing it, "Oh yes, I'm the great pretender." Well, I'd like to change it and say, "Oh yes, I'm the great persuader." And before I begin that, I'm Irish as well, okay? So Irish people's way of persuading, we do an awful lot of it, is often down the pub with a bit of crack and a story and a bit of river dance. And we're pretty good at that. So I generally, as an Irish person, will put in a bit of humor, a bit of bad language, which I will refrain from using, I hope. And a bit of humor, definitely. But core to any persuasion, for the most reluctant of people, is belief. Absolute belief. Whether I'm trying to persuade you to believe, to open up and believe, whether I have to believe in myself, the critical thing to move us from A to B is belief. And before I go any further, I have to say one thing, because I think another huge thing in the power of persuasion is saying thank you, and often reflecting on what we do, not on all the things that we don't. And I just want to say a huge thank you to somebody who has no idea how much they have believed in me by even asking me to be here today after 6 particularly rough months. And that belief has given a bit of fuel to a tank that was running empty. And Pamela, thank you. So my job, what do I do? CEO of Kanchi, and everybody goes, what's Kanchi? How do you pronounce it? What does it do? Kanchi is the name of an elephant, to which I will get onto a little bit later. But my job, or the job we do in Kanchi, is we try to get the greatest business influence and leadership in the world to take on one of the most invisible issues and to reframe disability. Because you know something? Disability is the one thing that we're still kind of scared about. We don't know how to fit it in because it's so broad, whether it's a wheelchair user, somebody who's visually impaired, hearing impaired, mental health, cognitive. It's one of the really scary ones. Do you know how little CEOs even say the word disability? Yet the consumer spending power of disability in the US alone is 3.3 trillion. Now in a recession, guys, you want that market, right? Seriously. And people with disabilities are not only your consumers, but they're your suppliers, they're your talent, they're your community. They decide whether you're going to win or lose. And so what we do is not talking about people with disabilities as feeling sorry for me or charity or, oh my God, because traditionally disability is so negative. It's how can I help you? And we kind of fall into 2 categories. Oh God, the poor creator model, an Irish expression, or, oh my God, super person. I've got no legs and I'm running up Mount Everest. But somewhere in the middle is a person. It's a person. And there are 1 billion people in the world touched and affected by disability, but nobody seems to talk about them. And all these great leadership forums, I never hear it. Why? Not because anybody's bad, because I just don't think we've got it, that we have a value. People with disabilities are valuable. And we believe the greatest power is the business leadership. And that business leadership, in the way that you have helped make every other social issue, bring it up there visibly, you can do this with disability. Because guess what? We're all getting older. That's the other thing. And 85% of people with disability acquire it in their working lifetime. Think about it. What kind of world do you want to live in? You still want to go down to the restaurant, right? You still want to run your world, and you want your kids to have the best chance. And so what we've done is we've framed or created a model called the Ability Awards, which is like putting the ISO 9000 together with the best companies to work for model, put a huge campaign around it, and franchise this model to create business leaders around the world, looking at pieces within a business where we can truly engage you. Our idea? World domination. We've been in Ireland. We are just about to launch in Spain in 5 days' time. So exciting. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, to Kenya and maybe Finland. So what has this disability thing got to do with me? So we're going to try this. I'm going to stand here. I know I freaked everybody out in the technology. I'm blind. I'm legally blind. A term that I have to tell you, I didn't want to have for a very long time. I can see to my hand. Every man in this room, and I have no idea how many men you are all George Clooney. All of you. The women, you are Grace Kelly or Angelina Jolie, I don't really care. But the great thing, as I say, I don't feel competitive. If I want to look good, I step 3 feet away from the mirror and I am beautiful. It's all about framing. The odd thing about me is, however, I'm going to step on the stage to not freak people off without falling. The great thing is, I was born with this condition. Johnny Cash. Who loves Johnny Cash? You know that song, A Boy Named Sue? Do you know the idea behind it? Is if I call my son Sue, a girl's name, he's going to get bullied, and he'll be tough and he'll survive. So my mum and my dad at 3.5 years old, just before I go to school, they look at each other and say, she's a coper. Let's not tell her she can't see. Think about that one. I'm their eldest. So I go to school thinking I saw exactly the same as you. So I learned from the age of 3.5 to be the world's great persuader. And all the way through my teens, no idea. The only time that it was a bit difficult was when, you get picked for the hockey team, and I was never picked because I couldn't see the ball. Frankly, dreadful. You know that expression, keep your eye on the ball? And you're there really working hard at it and flicking air. That's all you did. The boys at the discos, I'd ask the girls, is he really good looking? And they'd be like, he's so good looking. And when you're 15, you don't do a lot of chatting before you do kissing? Yeah. And that's when you realize he's kind of ugly. So it's all too close. But what I wanted to do at 15, because you start thinking at 15, what do I really, really want to be? And do you know what I wanted? I didn't want to be a doctor or a teacher. I wanted to race cars and motorbikes. And get this one for a weird one, be Mowgli from the Jungle Book. Now, I couldn't be Mowgli at 17. So on my 17th birthday, my father gave me one driving lesson. I can't see to the bonnet of a car. As the universe only conspires to make life incredibly interesting on my 17th birthday, I have a sister, by the way. She's 3.5 years younger than me. Her name is Hillary. We call her Billy. Billy has exactly the same eyesight as I had, but they told Hillary she couldn't see. So I used to think, poor Billy. Hillary wanted to be a pilot, and I'd be like throwing my eyes to heaven. Hillary wants to be a pilot. I used to go to every eye consultant thinking I was being a big sister, supporting my baby sister. On her 17th birthday, we were seeing an eye specialist who had just come back from Russia. And it only happened, he noticed on my chart it was my 17th birthday. And he said, so what are you going to do for your birthday? And with that glee and excitement of a 17-year-old, I'm off to drive my car. Do you know the silences in your life? Do you know those flatline silences? And he looked at my mom and he said, you haven't told her yet, have you? Now, of course, I'm thinking of poor Billy, nothing to do with me. Anyway, that's the day I found out I would never be driving a car. That actually, the one thing I probably should be doing is registering as blind. If I had a lot more time, I would tell you the big, long story, but I'm not going to bore you. But I actually spent 28 years. And I was talking to somebody earlier on today going, was that positivity or was that denial? But I literally got the information and went, he's insane, I so am going to drive a car. And I'd like to tell you I eventually did, but not in the way I'd like to. I spent 28 years hiding that vision. Problem. Because I didn't want you to see my failing. And I didn't want you to have to help me. And because when I went into university, I had to do some things, and I got this thing, a label called disabled. I'm like, what is that? And I used to think that disabled people would look at me and laugh and go, who's the fake? Because what do I look like? Well, what does disability look like? So I spent a lot of time not really having a clue what I was doing. I'd like to say I jumped out of planes and I hang glided, a lot of this tandem, because you wouldn't want to do that on your own when you can't see. I wanted to be an archaeologist, brilliant, flew the exams, couldn't see what I was doing. And similarly, all the way along, no, you can't dive, no, you can't drive, no, you can't be an archaeologist, no, you can't do this. And every time you pick yourself back up and go, it's fine. And then you go to business school. Great. It's an awful lot of education for disabled people. Keep going to school. We're one of the most educated population, I tell you. And I started a job with Accenture, completely not telling them, of course, I can't see either. Great. 2.5 years with Accenture, I lose all my vision, very badly. Got knocked down several times at a zebra crossings, and that's grand. They send me off to an eye specialist. This is this month, or actually March, 10 years ago. I found myself sitting in another eye specialist's office. And when he walked in towards me, he said, I'm not even going to examine you because I don't need to examine you. And he asked that bizarre question. What did you want to be when you were little? Do you love what you do? Now, in Accenture, they put a chip in your brain when you start with them. It's like the Android chip. I love Accenture, I love Accenture, I love Accenture, right? Oh my God, there's nobody here from Accenture, please. I loved Accenture, and I did. I actually did a great time. But anyway, he was saying, do you love it? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. But he said, if you continue to work like this, you're going to have nothing left. You'll have nothing. And as I walked out of his office, he said, come here. You've got to do something different. But it was total failure, that I couldn't do it anymore. It's so hard when you have to say, I can't. That you say, I give up. And I was tired. I'd been 11 years pretending I was banjacks. I was tired. And I remember leaving his office and running out and going home and going for a run on the beach. And in typical cinematic fashion, there was a big rock. And I generally run around it, but I was too busy cursing. And I fell on the rock. And I just had one of those moments, and it is exactly how it happened. What did you want to be when you're little? Well, I can't race cars, and I can't race motorbikes. But I can be Mowgli. I swapped a management consultant's job to go across India on the back of an elephant named Kanchi. And I decided I wanted to raise money for charity, not having a clue about that, the National Council of Blind and Sightsavers International. But more importantly, what I did start to worry about was, why am I scared of being disabled? Where are disabled people in the business world? Where are they gone? Or are they ever there? And suddenly, I thought, oh my God, there's a huge problem that I didn't even know about. And so this little elephant called Kanchi has started a business movement around changing our perceptions of disability. I would never have thought 10 years ago I could stand in front of anybody and speak and to tell you, number one, hi, I'm a blindo. And it's the best thing. And if only I copped onto it 10 years ago, could you imagine what we could have done? I wasted 10 years trying to be somebody else, looking like I can, and I can't. And can I just tell you, being a blind person that doesn't really look blind, or a visually impaired person doesn't look visually impaired, I'm always in the gents' toilets. And there is nothing wrong with my sense of smell. But there's a lot of things I could have done that way. You got to have a sense of humor, and this is my key thing. These are my 4 things I got to say to you about the whole power of persuasion for the reluctant collaborator, big long sentence. And number 1 is the framing piece. Do you know what? Disability, forget the word. I don't even care what you call it. But it's about difference, right? And the only thing that makes us the same is that we're different. All of us are different. And we all have things that are tough in our life. The difficulty with disability is it's society that's disabling. It's not us. We've just got to make society open for everybody in everything that they do so that we can all reach our potential, so we can all contribute. But when you're persuading somebody, you can't make them feel guilty. I can't say to you, you should be doing this. I need to say to you, you know that thing you did? It was brilliant. Let's have some more. The word no, back to front, bring it on. Seriously, it's about framing it. It's about making you believe that you can. And when I have to believe I can, but it's making you believe you definitely can make that difference. I can definitely frame it for you in a way that you will understand. And when we're working with business, it doesn't matter that it's worthy. It doesn't matter that it's necessary. It doesn't matter that it's essential for our world to include everybody. I've got to make business believe the bottom line. It's good for your innovation. It's good for your workforce. It's good for money. They're going to listen. And then they're doing the leading. The second most important thing is a thing that I feel really strongly about, is about the passion and the confidence. which I love to term in being a duck. Ducks are really cute, you know, and when you see them on the water, look how beautiful they look, like swans. Calm on the outside, but they're paddling like shit underneath. Us speakers today, calm on the outside, paddling like shit underneath. When you're trying to persuade the collaborators, you must project a confidence and belief. Listen, cry in the shower, because I do it many times. And you come out of the shower, it's like, ta-da, no, not naked. But like, all right, I'm here. The minute all of us step outside our doors, we wear masks. Now, you have to try and make sure that our inner bits and our outer bits are kind of aligned. But the confidence that you project, saying, I have a fantastic idea. I've got to completely make you believe in me so that you can't walk away. Because the investors in us are really investing in our vision. And if we have the passion and the confidence to say, I know we can change this, that's what will make the difference. It's that vision. It's that duck outfit. And thirdly, this is a really weird one, but it's about criticism. It's about criticism, risk, and failure. Clinton said a great thing a few weeks ago. I heard him speaking. He said, listen, criticism, you can take it seriously, but don't take it personally. And you know, when we're trying to convince somebody to believe so much in what we're doing, or I'm trying to convince you to open your heart and think, I think it's really important for us to hear the criticism. Let it come in. Let it build up. Because if you don't hear it, you can't fix it. You shouldn't be frightened of it. We shouldn't be frightened of failing. The failure part is just adding on. It's finding a way to pick up. And we had a project, literally 6 years. I keep getting knocked down, bang, and bang. And you keep going back up going, am I mad? 2 weeks ago, we just found out we won an award to make that happen 6 years later. We've opened ourselves up for that criticism. It's incredibly important. And one of the fourth things is, I'm so more important than anything. When I was talking about that confidence part and taking the risk, it's the risk to really hang yourself out there. When we started this thing called the Ability Awards, right, and this is the confidence piece in taking the risk, I had this idea that I was going to get televised and I was going to get a massive publication in the Irish Times and whatever else, but I really needed a sponsor. I had this, beautiful branding Ability Awards. We got the Prime Minister, and it was fantastic. We were 2 weeks to launch, and I didn't have a title sponsor. 2 weeks with the Prime Minister. And I had this beautiful branding and all the brochure, and I knew exactly who I wanted. I wanted O2. Big telecommunications company in Ireland. And I heard the CEO of O2 was down in a coffee shop. Things you do, it's extraordinary. So I got this friend of mine going, Danuta Gray's down in a coffee shop. Shh, down. Literally ran into the coffee shop, fell over a chair, because only that's what I can do. Found her, sat in front of her, and said, okay, I want you to take a risk on this. Blah, 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 did the pitch. And that's the other thing about persuasion, make it short. Get in there, do it. 2 days later, it was the O2 Ability Awards. One of the most important things, I think, in persuasion is who we surround ourselves with. Before I came up here today, as we're shaking, you had people going, you'll be good, you'll be okay. Most of the time, we need to be around people like us, and this is why Skoll is so amazing. It's my first Skoll. And you know, there's something in Skoll that's incredible. It's your atmosphere. You make it possible to believe and still dream. And that's what you do. And it doesn't matter if you can be Richard Branson, Bill Drayton, or the small person doing something in Ireland. Because as Paul said last night, if we all can be part of that, that's the persuasion in itself. The action speaks louder than any words. And that's the point. The action speaks louder than any words. And so lastly, because I hope I'm just gotten to my 20 minutes, I want to say one thing which I always talk about, which is about being dangerous. Really and truly dangerous. Women have a great way of making men believe it's their idea in the first place. And I remember when I had no money when we were doing the elephant trip, and I had promised $250,000, and I was so scared of letting people down. Great guilt, big Catholic guilt in Ireland. So frightened of it. And I was on this big show, the Late Late Show, huge show in Ireland. And the Late Late Show happened, and 2 days later I got this call from a man who was, I believe you. And he said, I saw you, and I'm sending you a check for €100,000. I burst out crying. But this is the risk. He said, Elephant Girl, if there's anything else I can do, just let me know. So 2 weeks later, I sat in front of him and said, "Can the cheek of it, the risk of it, wouldn't it be a great idea?" And he finished the sentence, "To meet my friends." And the day before I went to India, I sat around 16 most powerful people in Ireland who framed the work that we do today. And I learned that taking the risk to ask for help. We made 480,000 in an hour. We had the telephone numbers and email addresses for the most powerful business people in Ireland who made Aisling, who made Kanchi, who are starting a business movement. It's important to ask for help. And so the very last thing to say to all of you is, in the power of persuasion and what we're doing, whether it's big or small, don't you ever give up. Don't you dare ever give up, not when it gets just hard, because just then it's worth it. I drove that car in Malaysia on the Malaysian Grand Prix track in 2002, 190 kilometers an hour. 5 laps. And I hate to tell you, it gets better. I was racing against another blind man, and my co-pilot was a man called Mike McKenzie, who was paralyzed from the chest down with no legs. He felt he had nothing else to lose. Miles won. So don't you ever give up. And the difference is believe. Just keep believing. And thank you, Skoll, for helping us believe, and thank you, Ashoka, for helping us believe. Keep believing. And remember, you don't need to see to believe. You don't need that. You just need to believe to see, because you don't need eyes. All you need is a heart and a vision and a passion. Thank you.